Most of you have attended a school culture training before. If not, that's okay, but we're going to overview the finalized deck / training. So some of you that were in Texas, it's going to look quite different maybe than what you saw. Even those of you in California, we made some changes in between Dublin and LA, and then we made some changes after that too. So, and then some of you, it's like, I don't even know what I'm looking at, which is totally fine. Then we're going to kind of just overview the training schedule, and we're also going to show you some of the school culture trainings coming up. So in case you didn't get to go to a school culture training, then you are going to have some options available for you there. We're going to talk about supplies, logistics, and pay. I don't think we have pay finalized yet. One thing to note, you will get paid quite a bit more for doing these, but we haven't completely finalized those yet, just waiting on John and Houston to finalize those, but just know that more money is coming your way. We're making sure that these are going to be worth your time to deliver, and then we're also recognizing all the hard work that's going to take to put into these. Then we're going to review, intro, start, engage. That first half of the slide deck is what I'm going to be asking you to over the next month, really spending some time to review before we meet again. But we're going to do some review today and give you guys some time to ask questions, etc. And then finally, just some to-dos before the next meeting. Nothing huge. I'm not going to be like, you need to build a house. It'll be something that's really practical, just things to help you prepare and kind of give you timelines to learn this really giant deck. The deck, I think, of all the ones with slides on it is around 250 slides with slides that you will be presenting, which sounds really overwhelming, but I'm going to show you all the supports that you have there for you. And those of you that have seen one, it's going to be really, you've seen it in action. And then also, if you haven't seen one, we're going to make sure you can get to one just to make it easier for you to see those supports. All right, let us play a game. What do you guys want to do? 6th, 7th, or 8th grade?
7th.
7th. Okay. Pick one.
First to 5. Anybody.
Oh, I heard first to 5 first. This is a fun one. It's like going back to middle school. Here we go. Choose a number 1 through 40.
26.
26. All right. So if you have a statement that feels true to you, you're going to put up a finger. And let's see if we can see everyone. The first person to 5 will win. I'm going to say win. Okay. I have made a snowman. I've made a very pitiful snowman, but a snowman nonetheless. I have learned how to juggle. Oh, we have some jugglers. Some people are like, heck no. Okay. I have made a piece of art. You can define art however you want, whatever that means to you. I have had a pillow fight. Okay, we have some people at 4. All right, let's see if anyone gets pushed over. I have done a backflip. Oh, Brett has. Brett, I need to hear the story about your backflip. Sally, I need to hear the story about your backflip.
I don't know if it counts because it was off a diving board. Does that count?
Sure. Why not?
Okay, can't do it otherwise. I need some spring.
Yeah. Sally, what about you?
Up until I was actually looking, it's on YouTube, Miss Russ does a backflip. Up until about 10 years ago when I tore my Achilles, I could still do a round up back tuck. But I've lost it since I've torn my Achilles. But that used to be my party trick. My wife hates it because I'd have a couple beers and be like, let's go do a backflip. So it was a party trick I kept for a long time.
The safest time to do a backflip is after a few drinks.
Absolutely. And she would love how low my head would get. It was great. It was great. But I can't do it anymore. I can still do it on a tramp, but not in real life.
What was that YouTube again?
I was actually just looking to see if I could find it really quick. It's on YouTube. I show my students, it was filmed on a flip phone. So it's real high quality video. Yeah, it's a thing. Miss Russ does a backflip.
Awesome.
Check it out. Nice.
Yeah.
Anyone else make it to 5 besides the 3 of us? I used to be a cheerleader. That's the only reason I know how to do a backflip or a backflip. Okay, cool. All right, let's jump into not that that's not the real work, but let's jump into the realer work. So one thing to note is if you haven't already, go ahead and open up the trainer portal. I want to show this to you guys first, and I'll put it in the chat as well, because this is where everything that you're going to need is going to live for the whole season. What we're going to spend some time in today is the slide decks and then the training resources. So if you go into slide decks, notice that the school culture training now has a slide deck in it. It will take a second to load. And then also one thing I did before this is did looms. So if you are like, I don't remember what she said about this section, just go watch my looms. I tried to be energetic with them. So I have them for the first 3, and I'll make sure to record the next 3 ASAP. So going back to the trainer portal, in training resources, there's a bunch of stuff in here, but you probably want to go under spring training 2023, school culture training. And then this is where everything that's going to live. So you can see already, and I'll drop this one because this is probably the most relevant to this meeting. It has all the links for this meeting in here as well. If you haven't already, I would open up the slide deck. It is quite large. It might take a second for it to load. Or the slide deck is right here. Sorry, this is the slide deck for our training today at the top. And then this is the finalized school culture training slide deck. So it has, whenever I have this recording done, I'm going to put that here just in case you need to review it. I know there's some people, I think 1 or 2 that couldn't be here today. I'll put the recording there. To-dos before the next meeting. And then again, if you're ever not able to attend a training, all asynchronous requirements will be right here for what you're supposed to do. It'll usually be watch the recording and then fill out a little Google form for me just to let me know that you've watched it, understand it, if you have any questions, etc. Any questions about those resources? Anyone having trouble accessing the deck or anything like that?
My school computer blocks Notion, so could you drop the deck for the training, and not this one, but that one in the chat box, please?
Yep. So there
Thank
is
you.
the school culture deck. Don't you love school? How schools block things? Anyone else? Everyone good? Everyone have the deck pulled up? Okay. All right, so this is just going to be kind of like a big overview. We're not going to zoom in super into it. We will do that a little bit more when we get into talking about the start. The introduction, start, and engage. And then you can also look at in my loom, but this is going to be a super high overview of what our finalized slide deck actually looks like. And then one thing to note is at the top right of the corner is the slide I'm on. So I'm currently on slide 17. I'm going to be jumping through the slide. So if you want to follow me through the deck, that'll be your indication of where those slides are. If there's not a slide number on the top right, it's because they're in order of what I'm going. So starting on slide 17, really the whole idea behind our school culture training, as those of you that have attended, if you haven't, is this idea that culture is behavior. And we decided to put our whole deck around the iceberg model. So we know that behavior is at the top. That's how people act. That is culture, but there's a lot of things going on underneath that. Then for our serve model, just to review, if you haven't gotten a chance to see it before, it has changed from when we used to do serve back in the day. So I know, for example, like Chris, you might have done a serve training back in the day, but it has changed since we did that. So this is what they are now. Start is a warm welcome followed by a routine start. Engage is consistent practices to engage relationally. And by the way, this is not what the slide looks like in the deck. I just put it all on one deck. And then respond is empathetic tools respond to people's needs. Value is strategies that clarify where learning has value. And exit is a reflection to solidify learning and exit with action. So we introduce kind of all of these ideas in the introduction. So we start with what culture is, we talk about the iceberg model, we go through all those pieces. And then as we're leaving the introduction, we show participants that we actually did serve in the introduction. So the introduction had an entry task. You will be, as a trainer, doing 4 at the door plus 1 more, talking to people, giving them high fives, whatever that looks like. We engage relationally in the introduction. We respond to people's needs. We talk about how it values us, and then we exit. So that's kind of all taking place in the introduction. We're going to go into that a little bit more, zoom in a little bit later, but just to give you an idea of kind of what we do in the introduction. In each individual section, and this has changed even since California, even if you were at the Anaheim training, this has changed. So now we used to have it where we'd be like, start, and then we talk about what the behavior is, and behavior was a warm welcome. Instead of doing that, because that was like 2 layers of things, we go straight into behavior with start being the same thing. That just makes more sense than trying to like layer on top of layers. And as you guys have questions too, please put them in the chat, or you might want to wait until the end, whatever works best for you. So the way that every single one of these sections is structured is we introduce the behavior, which is that element of serve. Now it used to not be, we used to differentiate between them. Now they are always that element of serve. Then we go straight down to the beliefs, and we introduce a character strong belief. So this is start. This is what start looks like. And we give like an overarching character strong belief, systems over goals. You'll notice if you're looking at the slide deck that the slide notes are really built out. I tried to like write down and script everything that Houston and John said, try to script everything I said as well. So you have all that really robust notes as well. Then we'll go through some of those beliefs, some of the research behind these beliefs. So some of this is research conducted by Dr. Cook. Some of this research is stuff that we found with the help of Dr. Madeline Larson, some articles, some more of that. And then we jump up to structure. And so our structure is always going to be in those yellow brackets. For start, it is 4 at the door plus 1 more. Then from structure, we go into skills. For start, it's eye to eye, name to name, hand to hand, heart to heart, and an entry task. And so that is the general structure. And then we actually go in and practice those skills from there. So that's the general structure of a single section. So I'm just going to show you what the structure and skills are for each of those sections. For those of you that did serve in the past, you can be like, oh, this is what it looks like now. For those of you that have never done serve, you're now like getting kind of a glimpse into what you're expecting. For those of you that were at any of our training, some of these have changed, especially since Texas, for what they are. So so that was start. For engage, the structure is shuffle and share. Back in Texas, I believe it was shuffle, structure, share. We cut it down to 2. And then the skills that go along with that are primary partner, 4-4, and loop group. Basically, the concept is we just want people in the building to be able to find primary partners, be able to find 4-4, which is 4 people, be able to find loop groups, which is a group of 8. And so we're going to be doing a lot of webbing loop stuff and training, which is really fun. For respond, structures kind of stay the same throughout the whole training as prompt. It's just one that we've gotten a lot of really, really good feedback on. And the skills that go underneath that are all of these things. So when it comes to like content that you have to learn, if you don't know prompt, this is probably a pretty content heavy section for you to learn, but it's a lot of stuff that you as educators already do. So I don't want to freak you out there. Then for value, I can't even remember what this used to be, but back in Texas, but now it's called me and we. And those of you guys that were in the Texas trainings, I hate to say it, but chaos is no longer in the slide deck. We'll talk about that later. Some of y'all are like, what? But this is what that looks like. It's the skills are sets of questions. So me questions are these, like, what did you notice? What resonated with you? How is it related to your life? Why does this matter to you? And then questions related to we, like us as a group. So what others' perspectives did you notice? What might this mean to blank? How is this related to blank, right? Why might this matter to people you care about? And then finally for exit, this has changed a little bit. We've gone back and forth through it, but it is called the one thing, this idea that as we're exiting a space, the one thing is the way we want to do it. And the skills that we talk about that is learning, like we want our students to reflect on what they've learned. And then also teaching, we want to be able to reflect on what we have taught. Then after we go through all those sections, those are just really big overviews. We close out with the Stonecutter's Credo by Jacob Reese. We're going to talk more about that. Basically, you guys will be expected to tell a story. You're going to link to that story throughout the whole day. So those of you guys got to see it in Texas, you got to see John's story about Connor. Those of you guys that got to see it in California, you got to see my story about Antonio. Basically, it's about a student that might have been challenging to you and how really kind of pounding the stone, how building relationships, how doing all of these things helps add up to a really positive experience or positive relationship for you and or that student. If you don't have a story about a student that was challenging to you, we can chat. It could be a staff member, it could be a family member, whatever that looks like, we can chat through that. But just start thinking about a relationship that might have been challenging to you, a student that was challenging to you, Or if you don't even want to go down that route, we could talk some other things, like some things that you had to pound the stone for, like continue, go back to it over and over again. On this slide, what I just wanted to do to you is all of the activities that you will be expected to facilitate. I wanted to link as many of those in here as possible. Many of you have facilitated these activities before, but for those of you that haven't, these links on there are to our gym, and they give you descriptions of the activities. Sometimes they give you videos. Obviously, there's some on here that are not linked because they don't exist in our gym, but we will go through them more explicitly as we go through our training together. I'm going to pause there because that was a lot of stuff. Any questions that you guys have looking at an overview of the deck? What questions do you have? Awesome.
I'll ask.
Yeah.
So, when we get matched with someone, do we determine who does what activity, or do you determine who does what activity for us?
Yeah, such a good question, Lisa. For the vast majority of these, you will be doing it solo. So it'll just be you. If for some
Awesome, unless we're just solo. That's super cool.
yeah, sometimes you will not be solo. So for example, we're going to be doing one in Katy where we have a really, really large group. So kind of what I told our sales team is if it's over 150 people, there probably needs to be 2 people delivering it. Anything under 150, I feel like this group can handle really well. Like I have a lot of confidence in this group that is here. But if that is the case, we will communicate that with you early on, and then you will connect with each other. I don't want to dictate who's going to do what, because it's up to you guys to figure out how you're going to be comfortable and have those conversations with each other. But that's a really good question. Other questions?
Meredith, maybe a dumb question, but I'll ask anyways. Is there or will there be a sample of the presentation available to go through by either John or Houston prior to this work that we're going to go on this summer? Or does that make sense?
Like a video?
Well, I know the last presentations I was able to watch a full presentation online and then
Yeah.
kind of go through it and ask questions. I was just curious if that was available or will be available prior to our launch.
Yeah, really good question. That's one of the reasons that we are having you guys attend one first, is because we are not filming it at this point. We didn't have the personnel to film it. So that is why we asked you to attend one, so you could see like a John or a Houston or both. Those of you in Texas got to see both deliver it and see what that looked like. The other thing that I did is as they were speaking, I scripted out everything that they said. So you'll see that their words are in there. Sometimes I took their stories and put them in there as well. You can play around with the stories, but I just wanted those to be available to you. And then I know I'm not John or Houston, definitely not. But I am also doing those videos so you can see like what they are. I'm not delivering it during those videos, but to give you like a video overviews of each section, which I know is not the same as like getting to watch a video of it, but hopefully those are going to be good supports for you. And I know, for example, like I think John and Chris and Shalonda were not able to go to the ones that we had in Texas and California, but I know like Shalonda, we already got you going to one, and then Chris and John will find one near you to go to as well. Other questions? Cool. I'm gonna keep trucking for it so we get out of here maybe early. Be great. Training schedule. So this is when we're going to be meeting. You are here now. This is today. On May 8th, we're going to be really doing a review of the intro through Engage, which we're going to talk about today. You're going to have some time to do some asynchronous work, really dig through those resources. We're going to talk about facilitating those activities in that section, make sure we have really good clarity on what it looks like in a really good way, make sure we're very clear, make sure we can make it fun, get people laughing, get people connecting to each other. And then we're going to do a deep dive into respond versus exit. And then we're going to start brainstorming what those potential stories are going to be that you're going to be ending the day with, that power moment at the end of the day. On May 31st, it's going to be a review of respond to exit, facilitation of activities, and then a story workshop. So we're protecting some time there for us to be able to tell each other stories and like really nail them in. This is why we have those dates. So these are our upcoming school culture trainings, and we're going to have more that are coming up. So in May, before we're even done training, we already have 2 that are going to be happening. Luckily, we have some internal team members that are able to fulfill those 2. So if for some reason Phoenix or Boone, I don't know, Iowa, are close to you, that will work. Just talk to me.
Just
But then in
Boone.
June, Boone, thank you so much. I could always count on you, Lisa. In June, we're going to potentially be sending 4 people out to Dublin, California. Could be, some of you guys could be that 4. Then in Katy, it's going to be 4 of us. We've already figured out who those 4 people are going to be. On the 14th of June, there are potentially up to 3 people that are going to be going to North Dakota to do school culture trainings. And then on June 23rd, it's probably going to be 2 people going to Salem Kaiser, Oregon. And then we have some in early August as well. So these are, we have some of these we've already like assigned who that's going to be. Some of these it might be you. We're just still working through it, and we have even more after that. But that's when it gets into busy season. So for those of you that haven't attended one, and you're seeing one on here, you're like, oh, that's going to work for me. Just connect with me, send me an email. That way we can get you to one of those. But also know that this is why we have such a tight training window, is because we have some coming up really quickly. So really exciting. Any questions about our training schedule or what's coming up and all that? Excellent. Okay. Next is the fun stuff. Those of you that have attended one, you know that there is a whole lot of supplies that comes along with one of these. So we're going to talk through that. And then I also, I have Raina on with me, who has been like my supplies guru. Raina, would you be cool walking them through with all the supplies we're going to get, starting with webbing loops?
Yeah. So we, everybody gets 30 of these lovely neon green, character strong green webbing loops. So we will check them out to you, and you will leave one at each school that you go to. So eventually they will lessen, and we'll have a Google form that you can fill out to request more. So one loop helps 8 participants. So you'll have enough for roughly 160 participants. So if you have more than 150 participants, we'll be paying attention to that as well. But we'll have a form that you can fill out just to make sure that you have enough for your schools. And we will send videos of how to turn them into the daisy chains, which is how we store them. And then also the water knots, they'll all be tied for you, but just in case one comes undone, so you know how to retie them.
Yeah, and Coley, we are branding them. We're like still working on exactly the logistics of that, but they will have character strong on them, which is really cool. Yes, Lisa.
So do these get mailed to the site and then we pick them up at the site, or they get mailed to our home and we travel with them?
They will be mailed to you. So all of the supplies, you will have your set of supplies that you'll keep and you'll bring with you. And I'll make sure I'm going to pack it all in a carry-on to make sure that you guys have plenty of room for your stuff too when you're traveling with all the supplies.
Next question. That was my next one. Thanks.
Yeah, so Raina is just doing a really awesome job, but we know that that's like probably weighing on some of you, like with anxiety, and be like, oh, am I going to have to check a bag? We think that we can get all these supplies in a carry-on bag. Raina is going to double check that. If not, we'll talk further about what that can look like too. If that means upping a travel stipend, if that means sending you a bag, whatever that looks like, we'll talk further if it's not possible. But we think that it's possible. Any other questions about webbing loops? Cool. Let's talk about community agreement packs.
If you have seen the training, then you know the community agreement packs. But if you haven't, we went off like the fridge magnet sentences to create community agreements. So we're making them a little smaller. They're going to be business cards, not like the big chunky words. So everyone will have 38 packs. So that's 38 small bags with 75 words in each pack. So one pack can be 4 participants, so it's 152. So again, if you have more than that, you'll need to request some more for your training. And then if you lost a pack or some damage happened to it or something, because they're just paper, let us know and fill out that form as well. Oh yeah, and we added 5 blanks, so participants can add words if they feel like there's one that they want that's not in there.
Yeah, and one thing that I talked to Houston about, I was like, well, what if we're gonna run out of blanks pretty quickly? I would imagine, he said, I have no problem with people putting the blanks back in the envelope and those traveling and becoming like cool, like inserts from all over the country, which is pretty cool. Just so you guys know, these packs are gonna be like this size as opposed to at the regional trainings, they were like this size. So a lot easier to travel with. Any questions about the community agreement packs? Chris, I'm loving all of your name changes. I don't know if you're catching them, Brett, but I am. All right, last thing.
Last thing
Apologize, Meredith. Yeah, Brad is very juvenile and immature, and I don't get to see him very often. So this is a chance to interact and be commensurate with his level of immaturity. I apologize, Meredith.
No, I love it. You're keeping us on our toes.
loves entertainment. Last is dice, so you'll have
Okay, one more
45.
thing. Plus, he thinks that you just throw a blazer over a t-shirt, and that makes it formal and okay. Nice try, dude. Seriously, full collared shirt.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Funny. So you'll have 35 dice total. So it'll just be 1 bag of dice. So 1 die for all 5 participants. So you can just scatter those around at the table. So you'll have enough for 175. Again, request more if you need more, or if you lose some. Dice are really easy to get. So
Yeah, and those will travel in a canvas bag. It'll be a different color than your other canvas bags, so you can easily differentiate between them as well. Okay, let's talk about how you can check out and request them.
yeah, so to keep track of all the supplies that you've received, once you get all of your supplies, we're going to have you fill out one Google form that just says, I got 30 webbing loops, 38 community agreement cards, 35 dice, just so we know what everyone has. So if you send stuff back at the end, I don't think the plan is to send it back after every season, but if for whatever reason we have to have it back, we know how many you've had and how many are missing. And then the supply request form, if you need more supplies, if they get damaged, lost, you need more for a bigger training, you'll just fill out what you need more of, why you need more, and how many you currently have, as well as the address that you want them to be sent to.
Yeah, try to make this as easy for you all as possible. We know that there's a lot of other things that come with delivering these, which is why I don't have a slide for it, but you will be paid more. Like I said, we're still talking about it, but the other thing that we are also realizing is that depending on where you deliver these, it is possible that instead of being able to travel out that night, you could get stuck in a location. So if that ever happens, like if you cannot travel out that night and you need to stay in a hotel another night, just communicate with us and we'll make sure that that gets covered in your invoicing too. What questions you guys have about supplies, about logistics, about pay, about travel, any of those things?
Meredith, in terms of, this will be limited to one specific school site, or is this going to be district wide, or are you really trying to restrict it to just really working with one school and their culture?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It depends on the district and the size of the school. Our goal is that it's going to be a school site where you're working with their culture. We do have some schools that have like really small schools, so they might put their whole district in them. Or we are working with some districts where they're sending like their champions to all get trained. So it kind of depends, but for the most part, I would say so far, and Chloe and Raina, you can correct me, what I'm seeing is single schools come in. There's some ones that are not like that, which is like Katie. Obviously, we're training like a huge chunk of the district. But I think other than that, it looks like single schools for the most part. Yeah.
Hey, Meredith, if the superstars, whatever you just said, the core group that they're sending, does that tweak the slide deck, or does that keep the same slide deck if it's like representatives from each school?
I think it keeps the same slide deck if they're requesting something different in their event agreement, which also that's another layer of logistics here. You still have an event agreement. It'll be more detailed than the event agreements that you currently get. They'll talk about if they have character strong not PD, curriculum, because we know that some schools that will be purchasing this don't have character strong curriculum. They'll also talk about what is going on in their culture in their school, some of those things that will be helpful for you to like get a zoom in before you go in. So we can talk about tweaks. I think you always tweak slide decks slightly for any school, especially when it's like a higher ticket item like this. But I don't think you have to do any big tweaks unless they're like, could be like, we don't want to learn anything about prompt, then we can chat.
And will there be, well, pertaining to the first question, and Chloe maybe, so I know like last year, like I did the Puyallup one, for example, there was like 600 people and it was in a big auditorium, which would be absolutely abysmal to do this in, just logistically. So will there be some thought to that, and what gets booked and not booked for this? And then will there be elementary, middle, and high school specific decks?
Yeah, I think great question. I think that Puyallup one really spiraled us into figuring out how we don't put presenters in that situation with 600 people in
Thanks
an
a lot,
auditorium.
Chloe. You could have done it before I did that. Thanks a lot.
No, you're a guinea pig. Thank you. But yeah, so we do have eyes on it. It says now when they fill out the event agreement that it's not recommended to be in certain spaces, and we give them what is recommended. So there's just more communication that way up front. If for some reason it gets to you and you've been booked and you see auditorium 600 people, that's a red flag. So you would bring it to us and we would reach out directly and say that's not a conducive space for this type of training.
Is there a spot for them to run air conditioning if necessary too?
I think we're getting a little over our heads in the education system here in the United States, unfortunately. But to answer your other question, these are not or they're all K-12. They're not elementary or secondary decks. They're all the same content.
Yeah,
Okay, so we won't be showing examples from purposeful people in any way, shape, or form, or okay.
Well, the only place where we will show examples from the curriculum is our community building menus, which, you know, we'll just be doing activities from those. So we'll have one activity highlighting our secondary deck, one activity highlighting our purposeful people deck. If you know that you have just a secondary crowd, you might just do the secondary deck, maybe like a 9th grade deck and a 12th grade deck, depending on that. But that's a really good question too. And then the other thing to note as well is as our sales department is selling this, they were trying to keep the numbers at 100 or lower, not always happening. Like I said, if it goes over 150, we are asking that we send 2 trainers. But we're always trying to keep the numbers at a reasonable place because we know that a whole room of 600 people, although Chris, I heard you did a great job for that training. We know it's puts you guys in a bad situation. We don't want to put you there. And then Raina will also be checking the location if she sees something that is like, oh, it says auditorium. Oh, no, that's not going to work for this training. She will call them and figure out something ahead of time too. But good questions. Anything else? Great. All right, so let's zoom into this first part of the slide deck. So I'm going to actually jump over the slide deck if you want to follow along with me. I'm going to go through this. A few things to note about the slide deck. Feel free to make a copy of it if you want to, but note that there will be a few just design changes. We're not going to have like content changes. It's going to be design changes. Like there's a few slides that we still need to update. For example, the workbook numbers are probably going to change just as we're finalizing workbooks. And then we also have some things that we still are waiting on that finalization to change over. So the first thing that's going to change is on this slide 6. This is going to be replaced with a different GIF. So this is actually what the entry task is going to be now. We are not sending you with name tags. Like we don't need that. What their entry task is going to be now is this self-portrait where they're actually going to be drawing a self-portrait themselves without lifting a pen. And this will be a GIF at some point. And then 3 words to describe how you're feeling today and share with someone near you. So that will be your entry task as people are coming in. So as people are coming in, point them to the screen. As we know, a lot of people don't always do like the entry task. So give them maybe a couple minutes at the beginning. Hey, if you haven't already, go ahead and turn to page 3 and do blah, 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 blah. And yes, Sally, thanks for asking that question. Workbooks will be sent directly to the school. No name tags. They're not getting name tags. We have thought about sending you with some stickers. We're still like trying to process through like what that is going to look like, but no name tags. So you don't have to travel with all of those lanyards and all that stuff. After that, just some simple nuts and bolts. One thing to note about the timing of here is that you will just need to communicate with the school about when their lunch is going to be, since it is a full day training. I will say that Houston and I have padded enough time should have enough time for an hour-and-a-half lunch, just knowing that sometimes schools cannot do it like all on their campus. They might send people out, but don't tell schools that, right? We probably want them to have an hour on lunch if at all possible. Like that was some conversations we can have with them and be like, hey, we really would like it for it to be a 1 hour lunch, but this will just be a part for you to fill in to communicate with them. Those of you guys that have attended a training know that we send an abundance of follow-up resources. We're going to even add to that list, but it's a good thing to run through those resources beforehand so that they know that some of the things that they're seeing in the slides, they get. So for example, like all the stuff they may be like furiously writing, but they're going to get a whole serve guide that has everything that we talk about. It tells you how to do all the activities we do, etc. All right, moving on. Oh, wrong slide. Objectives, pretty self-explanatory. Frame for the day. You don't have to be bad to get better. Just letting them know if you feel like you're good with culture already, that's fine, but you can still get better. You don't have to be bad. Who needs character development? For your story about your challenging student, this is where you'll plug them for the first time. So who needs character development? I know I've been in the classroom before. Who needs character development? Antonio needs character development, but then you're going to pre-correct and be like, no, we all need character development. What is culture? These will look very familiar. Oh, we're actually going to change this slide, just so you know. It's going to be just a think about a tree as opposed to drawing a tree, just to make some space in the workbook. Talking about how we think about different trees. It's really important to have some common language. And then these slides that you probably recognize if you've been presenting with Character Strong before, or even if you haven't, you've already done L1, these slides exist in L1. Culture and climate, coming all to the idea, culture is behavior. We already talked about the iceberg model in the introduction. We're actually going to walk through it with like, okay, this is what that means in beliefs, and no dedicated time and skills and then behaviors. And so this will go backwards. It's going to start at the bottom for how it appears in the slide deck. Then our beliefs drive our behaviors. It's all about relationships. This is when we will partner up. So we'll do primary partners. And primary partners, what belief do you have that drives what you do in education? Circle in a circle. Circle in a circle, just for those that have done it before or you haven't done it before, just a reminder that your goal is to get them back to their primary partners at the end. So there's several tricks to that. You can find a partnership, remember what they look like, make sure that they get back to each other. You can count how many people are in the circle, make sure you rotate that many times, do the math, whatever works best for you, but it's really magical whenever they get back to their primary partner at the end. When they're in circle and circle, and Chris, this is what you were asking about. This is the only time we have like something really from our curriculum highlighted in here. They will do these connection activities. And we typically do 4 of them. So we did 4 with a group of 30. We did group 4, well, not 30, probably 50. We did 4 with a group of 200. And that still felt pretty good. If you like really feel like you have too many, you need to do more, that's fine. But just for time's sake, 4 is probably about at that sweet spot. Then we'll do winks, blinks, and belly laughs, where they're going to either have to figure out as a primary partnership, they want to do 2 winks, 3 winks, whatever, and they'll find their core 4 by finding a group that does not have the same number as them. So if they like go up to a group and wink at them twice, and that group winks at them 3 times, they can be a partnership. But if both groups have 2 winks, then they are not a partnership. All this is in the slide notes as well.
Hey, Meredith, I know I get asked this sometimes too. Is the weigh-in inventory in the gym for them to be able to reference and use?
So are you talking about for this particular group?
Well, yeah, and for moving forward, sometimes they want to know, can we access that later and use with students?
Yeah, if they have the gym, yes, they can access it. Obviously, if they don't have the gym or the resources, then they won't have access to it.
But it's still going to be warehoused in the gym.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in the gym for those that do have the curriculum and have the gym. Yeah, that's really great. That's one of the reasons we wanted to put on the event agreement if they have the curriculum, because we can point them to spaces in the curriculum where they have access to these things.
Well, I know I've had a lot of luck with trying to actually model things that are available for them to potentially use, and then they become interested in wanting to buy the gym.
Oh, heck yes. Yeah, please mention, be like, I mean, if you're really curious about this, these are some activities that live in our gym. Wing slings and belly laughs is in our gym as well. Then core 4.
Yeah, so I almost wonder if you want to label those as almost a little bit of a marketing promotional tool.
We have to be, maybe we have to be careful about that, just to make sure it's not like the people that are coming in, like I'm imagining like an administrator being really mad, be like, you're marketing all these things that I don't want to buy. So we just have to, I think we have to be careful about I think we can say it out loud, but I just want to be careful about putting them on the slides for those reasons. As long as it's casual, I think it's totally fine. Then whenever they're in core 4, they'll have a 1-word team name. Then after that, we move into community agreements. 1 second. Sorry. Maybe. One second. Sorry, my husband was like, I'm going to blast my TV really loud. So yeah. Okay, so then we get into community agreements. Kind of talked about the community agreement cards already, but this is what that will look like. You'll talk about what community agreements are, talk about our 4-part process, which we do talk about. Hey, this is something that we do in our curriculum at every single level, pre-K all the way through 12th grade. And then we'll actually walk through that. So first in their core 4, they're just going to talk about something that they need to feel safe. And then they're going to do group brainstorm with those cards. And so with those cards, they're going to first spend 3 minutes coming up with one community agreement in silence. So those of you guys that were in Texas, this has changed a little bit. So one community agreement in silence, and it should be 11 words or less. It's a really good opportunity just to remind them that community agreements need to be something we can remember, and therefore they need to be simple. Really emphasize that 11 words or less, because people like to make it like 15 words. We found out, or sometimes 20 words. We had some really long ones in Texas. So that's a good way to like make it go down. Then they'll get 2 minutes after that to actually talk about them. They can clarify what that looks like for them. And then value voting, you'll actually have them walk around and look at each other's, do a gallery walk of all the community agreement cards, and then get to go and stand next to the one that they really want to vote for, and they can't vote for their own. But that's how they'll vote. You'll see which one is the most. Then you'll ask people to sit down after that. Then you're going to talk about how we have to come back to the community agreement cards and then read that one that everyone that got the most votes out loud, and they'll write that down in the workbook, and we'll come back to that later on in the slide deck as well as a reminder. It's probably one of the most complicated things you get to coordinate early on. When we talk about it more next time, we can talk about what that actually looks like. You can start thinking through and probably through that. Those of you guys that got to see it happen, it's not too crazy to do. It just takes some thinking ahead. Remind them that they get the community agreement cards as a resource. And then this is discussion, whole group discussion. What did you connect with during this process, and why might community agreements matter to the people you serve? Talk about structures. This is one of my favorite ones. You have 7 seconds to memorize these letters. Give them 7 seconds. Go to the blank slide. How many did you get? See, there's always like 1 or 2 people that get all of them. It's not, yeah, like Lisa. But not everyone. Usually it's not the majority of the crowd. And then you can ask them, it would have been easier to remember them if they looked like this. Just really reminding them that structure is important to the things we do. And then this is the structure that we're talking about, which I already reviewed with you. And then we close out the introduction section with a quick reflection. Hey, which one do you feel like your school or you or your classroom or your PLC or whatever that looks like in that space needs most help with or most work on? Is it 1, beliefs, 2, structures, or 3, skills? A good opportunity for building administrators to see what their staff thinks. Also a good opportunity for you as a trainer to see, oh, everyone on the staff really thinks that we need some beliefs. I might need to spend some more time focusing on those beliefs in that section. And closing out with culture is behavior. Who needs character development? We all do. And then we close the first 3 sections with a character and action challenge. So again, these are just opportunities for people to come forward and send messages. If you have a story around one of these, I would go ahead and implement this to make it powerful. And you could do this here or any of the other 3, but just to get them to do it. Every time we do these, they lead us into a break. I'm just going to keep running just since we only have about 12 minutes left and make sure I get through all of it. If you have questions, throw them in the chat and I can answer them as they come up. Then we come back from break. We talk about serve. Hey, we did it with you guys already. I already mentioned that. Then we go into start. You guys already got to see start a little bit for the door plus 1 more. And then we actually talk about the research behind this. This is Dr. Cook's research. Then we'll get them back with their primary partners. First thing we'll do is eye to eye, where they just will talk about like, how does 4 at the door plus 1 more matter in an educational space? And then what's one way you can help people know that you see them? Name to name, this is a crowd favorite. My name isn't. So for example, my name is Meredith. My name is not Mary, or I had a really bad one like Meredith or something like that. I've had some weird ones. Marilyn. So this is a really crowd favorite. Some more research kind of composed in, get to their core 4, hand to hand, the secret handshake, really fun. Each person in the core 4 will come up with like a handshake that like part of the handshake, and then it's really funny and lots of laughs happen in that space. Heart to heart, easy connections. What could you teach others? And then what's something everyone in the group has in common? Make sure they don't pick something that is obvious, like we're all teachers. No, don't let them get that cop out. Something that is not obvious to them. We're all teachers, we're all girls, whatever that looks like. Sit down, we'll talk about entry tasks, some research behind that, and then we'll show them some example academic entry tasks. There's answers on here, just in case you're worried. Talk about the temperature check. Again, if you have a story that is connected to doing a temperature check, having done a temperature check, having someone check in with you, even if you haven't done temperature checks before, this is really good. If you don't have a story, you need one, we have plenty. At Character Strong, we can supply, or probably someone else in this room has one that they can supply. Then we'll talk about, again, Chris, just like you said, we'll highlight that in our gym, we have entry tasks, an entry task library that you can go and look into. Try a couple of those. This is a crowd favorite right here. And then instead of doing the group note taking, which everyone that went to a regional training saw, we're going to change this and simplify it. Instead of having this group note taking sheet, this is actually going to be just a chart with all of our example entry tasks. And then they're going to do crowdsourcing. They're going to brainstorm 2 at their table. They're not going to get up and then share them with each other. At the end of that time, you might have a few people share out. It just really simplifies it, cuts down the time a little bit. We weren't sure we were getting really quality entry tasks from doing the group brainstorming anyway. So this is a way we simplified that. We'll do a quick review. Show the resources that are coming with them, cultures, behavior, who needs character development, we all do, and character and action challenge leading into a break. Finally, we'll jump into engage. Beliefs drive our behaviors. Our belief is connection doesn't happen on accident. One thing you'll note is if you went to a regional training, there was a really beautiful story here about Tori that Houston told about a girl that sent him an email that was really amazing. We took that out just because of the length and also just because it didn't feel authentic if someone else was going to be delivering it. That being said, if you have a story about a relationship you want to share here, we all do, having delivered L1, this is a great place to put that story. It's always great to give people a face to all the things that happen after this, all these stats, right? Some disturbing stats up here. And then we jump into some of the positive side. Shuffle and share, get them into the core 4, do some more just connection activities. We're also going to give them some opportunities to get to talk, show them some structures for which they can talk, or what we call shares now. And one of them is number crunchers. If you haven't played it before, it's really fun. It was a crowd favorite in California, so we changed this. This was Hot Hands in Texas. We thought that was maybe a little bit too high risk for people, so we changed it to number crunchers, which is a little bit more low risk. They don't have to touch each other. If you don't know how to play it, it is listed on here, and I describe it in my video. Some more kind of sharing out examples, constraint combos. This is one that will be whole group share out. Hey, in 10 words or less, I want some people to share out what they shared with their partner. Then find another group of 2. This will not be their core 4. It'll be a completely separate group of people. and then find another group of 4. And this is when we get into loop groups. So there's really detailed notes about how to do each of these things that are going to be in the notes, but I'll also be creating a document for our people that are going through this training, explaining all of these activities, explaining how to tie webbing loops, all those things that they have it, but also so that you have it. So going through several things, talking knot, where they get to discuss why shuffle and share could matter in their role. Victory ward, it will be a different one from their core 4 word. They'll do 1 knot, 2 knots, name shapes, go back to their seats, cultures, behavior, who needs character development. We all do character and action challenge. This will be the last challenge of the day, and then go to lunch. So that is the first half of the training. I'm going to pause here. We have about 6 minutes left, which is probably like a good amount of time. And I want to see if there are any questions, any red flags that are popping up right now. Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
I hate to do this because you've put a ton of time into this. I'm just letting you know that the picture that you have of the desk of this we'll go back to our seats and stuff. For people who are big and obese, and it could be traumatic if you were a big child and you couldn't fit in that type of a desk. So I'm not telling you to change everything. I'm just saying that it could be a trigger for some people. I know that's super, super deep and super woo woo. I'm just throwing it out there as someone who has had that experience.
No, that's really good feedback. I'm going to write that down. Especially, I mean, we use that slide, we use that icon a lot. And so I think that's really helpful. We'll bring that back to the team.
Meredith.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had mentioned maybe not to make our copy of the slide deck yet, but at some point, will we know, like, will you sort of give us a heads up? Hey, we think we have it. I mean, we know there's always little changes, but you mentioned, some are coming already. Will you be able to give us a heads up as far as, hey, I think we've sort of got it where it's going to be if you want to start making your own copy and personalizing some of the notes?
Yeah, and I know that is really helpful to personalize the notes. If you want to go ahead and make your own copy, probably what I'll do is it's kind of how I did for our L1 is have a separate slide deck where it has all the slides that we've changed, where you can just copy those slides and put them into your deck. And I'll label like, this is slide 153. So you know where it's supposed to go. That way you can go ahead and make a copy and start playing with slide notes, because that's a really important part of what I do to prepare. So I'm sure that is a really important part of what some of you do as well.
Sure. And it's sort of related to that. Workbooks are delivered to the site. Is that right? Is that what I understood? Yes. So I'm guessing the final workbook is going to be a little different than the workbook we might have saw somewhere along the way. Is there a chance to get one of those workbooks sent out to us when you're sending us the other stuff, just so we can see it before we get there?
I will send you the PDF of the workbook. Will that work?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Appreciate it.
That way we don't have to mail it to you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, as soon as we have that finalized, I'll send that to you. I'll put it on our training portal, all that stuff, so you have access to it. Really good question. Thanks for letting me talk for so long. All right. So before next time, here are your to-dos. Read through intro, start and engage. And then next time we meet, come with questions, play with the slide notes. Your question might be something like, hey, John's in the waiting room. I'm going to let him in. I wonder if he's going to tell us about pay. I'll let him in. We'll find out. Play with the notes, whatever works for you. And you can come next time and be like, hey, how would this story sound here? Or I don't really understand this activity. Can we go through it more? Brainstorm some ideas for your final story. Again, it's challenging student, challenging person, someone that you really had to, as we say, pound the stone with, really dedicate some extra time to, really build that relationship with over time. And then finally, if you haven't attended school culture training, start looking at the dates that I have in the slide deck to find one near you. We'll continue to add dates. So if you're like looking at that and you're like, there's nothing close enough to me for me to get to, that's okay. We'll probably have some more. The goal is to get everyone to a school culture training before we get to August, so that we have the full arsenal of people ready to go in August. So those are your to-dos. Hey, John. I'm gonna
I
let
like made a guess. I'm like, who would change their name to Brett McDaniel? It's probably Dr. Clayton, and it was.
There
So
was.
you got that one right. I was trying to see it.
Awesome.
Good to see you all.
Do you want to talk to them, or is it this, you want to talk to me?
No, I want to just jump in because I know that you and we were talking about getting some of the details on for those that have been around, some updated on like pricing for the school culture trainings, because it's a different, obviously, amount of time, a different level of commitment, and really is becoming a flagship training for us. And so I had a couple of big things at the end of the day come up. So we're going to send out, and we're looking at almost like not a leveling is not the right word, but almost like an incentive-based one where it goes up over time. So I'm going to send through Meredith, and then she can send to everybody here for those that know the 3-hour training, amount, or the virtual training, this being a full day and being the first time since the pandemic where we've done full day trainings. I'll have Meredith send that to you, but my goal was to get it to Meredith before the meeting, and just acknowledging that I didn't, Meredith, but was able to connect with senior leadership, and we'll get that sent off right away so that the team here can look at it after you've previewed.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks so much, John.
You bet. Great to see everybody too. I just want to say hello.
All right. As you guys are leaving, just put in the chat, you can answer one or both of these. What's one thing you're excited about for delivering these, and one thing that you need more clarification on? You don't have to answer both. Put those in the chat, and then I will stay on for if you have questions that you didn't want to ask in front of the whole group. I'll stay on for as long as you want. Oh, is that your video, Sally? Meeting new
It's
people.
high quality. It's high quality. I just want that noted. And I'm wearing a pink vest. It's high quality.
I'm like tempted to open it and we all watch together. Try to spread the message. New content, another season. Clarification, just have to review and look at the structure more, for sure. Help provide ways for people to connect in an authentic way. Yeah, it's really cool.
I just watched that video. When was that filmed, Sally?
Yesterday.
2009
Okay.
at Inglewood. Yep. It was like a brain breaking class, and we had to go outside of the track and do a quick little backflip. It's fine.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's normal, it's cool. I can't do it anymore though. It's really sad. I need to figure out a way to bring that back.
I don't think it's sad that you can't do that anymore.
I can still do the splits, but we don't have a video for that. Nobody needs to see that.
Oh, I think we do.
No, we're good.
Spend more time with Brett McDreamy. But need clarification on why he's wearing a formal blazer. I love that. Love it. Excited to come alongside schools, build their best culture. Love the flow of the presentation, relatable to trainings. Decided to start with this content. Do work at schools that everyone can do. And by the way, you guys are free to go once you put that in the chat, unless you have questions. Thank you so much for being here. Have an awesome rest of your day.
And just for clarity, Meredith, when you work at a middle school as an assistant principal, this is like, you can wear any sports team shirt under, you're still somewhat professional, but I can wear Jordans with this sports coat. Like, it's, anyone who's worked at a middle school knows that the blazer is key.
Hey, I'm not knocking on you, Brett. That is all
This feels
Chris.
like self-created rationalization of your personal style of adornment, Brett. That is not formal decorum in any way, shape, or form.
Hey, it is kind of like people are wearing that on runways now, I have to say.
Yeah,
Is
Brett's
that a
not
base-
on any runway and never will be anytime soon. I promise
Is
you.
that a baseball? Does Pittsburgh have a baseball team? I heard that they had a team, but
I know they have a better record than your M's actually. So
Is that the presenter uniform? Yes, we're making that the presenter uniform right now. So Chris has to wear that exact outfit.